16th of August. I've come back down to the plot after digging the potatoes up, which was like kind of, you know, only a matter of days ago. So and I folded the tops over on the onions, so I've actually come today to lift them. We had a nice bit of weather yesterday and then a little bit of rain overnight, so the ground is, you know, damp, but it's not soaking wet, because I didn't want to lift them while they were soaking and I didn't want to lift them in the rain. So the plan is today is to get all these lifted, keep them, sort of, I'll have to keep them probably in the van overnight, and I can deal with cleaning them up tomorrow, which is just simply just taking a couple of layers off so the onion finishes with one single skin on it. You don't have to do that as long as you clean most of the dirt off. I find it's easy to do before they started curing too much, because the skins tend to be very papery then, so I tend to peel a layer off and then start the drying process. That could do with the garlic. The garlic I just take like 2 layers off. So it's quite easy to lift them. If they're a bit stubborn to come up, get a little hand fork underneath, prise them. But you know, as long as you're just careful and don't rip the bottom bit, the basil plate, it should be fine. I will find some, you know, that are a bit, you know, sort of like not in best nick. So I always sort of like check them, which I tend to do as I'm skinning them. So all I do when I'm skinning them basically is I take them back to. You know, they'll go all white again, but don't worry, they'll go like golden brown again, or obviously if you're doing the red ones, they'll dry out to a single skin. So I'm looking for basically an unbroken skin layer, you know, and clean it off at the bottom. Careful not to damage, because if you damage that area, it's times like this where, you know, bacteria can get into it. So take it back to a single skin like that. Leave your tops on and your roots, because they assist in drying, because obviously these will help pull all the moisture out of this neck. Sometimes they store better, the thinner the neck, the better they store. The neck will shrink a bit, but obviously the ones with the thicker neck, use them first, because they just don't tend to store as well. And I find the bigger the onions, they don't tend to store as well either. So use your small ones up first, your big ones up first, sorry, and then your small ones. I try and size them when I string them. You don't have to string them, which I'll do another video when it comes. I like to leave them quite a while to dry out. Some people say like to give them 2 weeks. If you've got like good clear weather and you can hang them in the open breeze, you know, upside down, or on a single layer on a rack, you know, so they're fully exposed to wind and a bit of daylight, that helps pull the moisture out. That speeds things up, obviously. But if you've got cloudy days and lots of rain and the air's damp, it takes a bit longer. So once these feel like absolute paper, it's ready. And then basically I trim the roots off carefully, otherwise if you try and do it one chunk you might rip it. And then I trim any excess neck off. That's about there. Leave myself a little papery stub, which I can use for actually stringing. That's one job I'm going to do today. Obviously I've got some courgettes to pick as well, because I'm going to try and get them, because obviously the other day when I came I got an absolute abundance of large courgettes or marrows. But there's a few small ones, so I thought, well, I'm here, take them while they're small, and then if I don't get down for another 10 days or whatever, then there won't be massive ones, you know, because obviously if you're just in a few days, you know, they can go from small to a big marrow. And I prefer them as courgettes. I don't mind the odd marrow, but I prefer them as courgettes. And then I've got to pick the blueberries. I was going to pick them the other day, but I looked at them and they were a bit, you know, they were right, but they just needed to plump up a bit. So I thought we would use some rain. So I thought, well, a bit of rain, they might plump up. Give them a couple of days just to have a bit of a drink and a plump up, and then I'll pick them. How many's going to be left? I mean, if I pick them and there's not many left to pick out, I'll probably leave the door open, let the blackbirds in and clear up, because you know, they'll pick up anything with bugs on or anything like that. And obviously, I might take a couple of the Savoy cabbage, the Rigoletto, or at least one anyway. I need to start thinking about taking them, because how long they'll stand for I don't know. You know, they usually stand quite well, but obviously they've been in the ground here since April, you know, so they usually stand pretty well. So I'll just keep an eye on them. And then obviously I've got some broccoli with me. I've got some cauliflower, but I'll probably not bother doing any cauliflower because I've got loads, but I might do a couple just for making some piccalilli or something like that. But it's predominantly going to be broccoli, which I'm going to possibly plant in where the collie was, because obviously where I had the broccoli last time there was club root in there, so I'm not going to put anything in that bed now. But I've got quite a lot of broccoli, so I might actually put some in this bed, because I mean I've limed that bed where the camera is, just as a comparison, just to see, because that way then next year I know then if I've got club root on this, I know it's an issue. I need to target, you know, club root resistant varieties. and obviously let the ground be drier, and obviously lime it before planting as well. They're all things you've got to consider to try and fend off the old club root as best you can. Not seeing anything as such as, you know, leaf miner, but you never know. You know, you could have a few. But you know, there's plenty of onions. I've lost some. You know, they tend to. I always get some that tend to just rot off. You know, it's not white rot. They just kind of like something gives up inside. There's no damage to them. You can kind of like still use a section of it. You know, providing it's not been in the ground for ages. They just hollow out. They just turn to nothing inside. They have that weird smell. You know, you think, well, it's not great. But I've got some here. It must have been like a couple of seeds. There's 3 here. I don't know where you can see them, but there's 3 here actually in the same spot, and they're all a good size. So I am tempted, you know, on the multi-sown thing. I've never really done it before as such. Oh, grasshopper here. But yeah, they're a, you know, well, I'll pull them out now. You can see. I mean, that obviously had a space of its own. That one. I've got 3 here, all within the same sort of spacing in the row, but obviously these 3 obviously are together. You know, there's 3, you know, like large tennis balls size onions there, like a cricket ball. You know, but I'm quite happy with them at that size, to be honest. So it's food for thought, you know, and obviously it saves a bit of space, you know. So I might do my rows a little bit wider apart and multi-sow, you know, instead of being like, you know, whatever it is, I can't remember what it was now, whether it was 10 inches by 6 inches apart in the row. I might give them, you know, 12 inches by 8 inches apart in the row, something like that, or 10 by 10, do it like that and grow them in. I might try it with some, not all of them, because it might go horribly wrong, but yeah, that's worked well, that, you know, considering the beds aren't really fed or anything. That's enough waffle. So I'll get pulling these up. These can sort of have an hour or 2 to dry out a little bit, so you know, I'm not putting obviously wet onions together somewhere. Obviously once they're out of the ground, they're in the van, and they're wet, they'll start that, you know, any bacteria. But if you can dry them out, bacteria struggles to survive on anything that's dry. Obviously I've got to be careful because a lot of the tops will be composted at home or stripped at home, but I might put them in tubs at home and then bring it back up with me, because that way it saves transferring anything from here to home and vice versa. This is why I don't make much compost here, because most of the clearing up is done at home. So I just need to watch that, obviously with having club root here, so I've got to be careful. I don't want to take that back home with me. So we'll get on and see what we get done today, and hopefully the pressure's off a bit then. I've got things in a bed growing, you know, things are still tickling over, and then I can start thinking about prepping these beds up. And obviously there's a fruit cage to deal with this year, so there'll be still videos to come, obviously from the garden, because that's still producing, and the polytunnel. It's a bit tricky in the polytunnel, plenty of tomatoes, but I just need to speed up the ripening process. So we shall crack on and see what we get. Right, I'm going to take one of these Savoy now, the Rigoletto, that's the variety. I forgot to say before, the onions, the white onions are Santero, and the red onions are called RedSpark. They're both F1s, but they're the ones I grow because I don't know, I found them to be pretty reasonable and they store really well. None of them went to seed. Like I said, there's probably about 9 or 10 that have got this sort of rot thing going on, but I'll pull them out. I'm going to take them home and actually put them in the non-recycling things, just in case it is some sort of disease. I'm not putting in a compost heap then. So I'm going to try and, I haven't got my secateurs with me, so I'm going to try and hack this below the head and take these outer leaves off, because it's these outer leaves that will host pests, you know, that are not of any use. But I mean, if they're okay, take them home, chop them up, because you can blanch, you know, this sort of cabbage. It's just trying to find the stem that's deep within here somewhere, and if this little knife can cut through it. It's there somewhere. It's quite woody. I think I'm through. Yep. So take another outer leaves off, because obviously there's going to be slug damage. It's inevitable on this plot. But yeah, there'll be slugs in there somewhere. It's only downside with cabbage, but still, it's a nice size head. Not blowing or anything like that. It's good. I mean, you can leave it. I'll probably try and sprout something else, but I'll clear it up just for sake of, you know, getting it out of the way. It just allows a bit of airflow in there. There is white fly in there, so they will go to the underside of the older leaves. They tend to prefer the older leaves, and then when they die back, if you don't get them out of the way, they'll latch to the next. It's just a slow process that eventually the insects will overcome the plants eventually, but unless you want to use chemicals. But you can kind of, you know, they're quite hardy, you know, and so just get rid of any foliage that's bad, like I did on the courgettes. So just cut a lot of the old foliage off, and it just gives them somewhere less to sort of congregate, I guess. Obviously been flying around, so there'll be some predators coming in, snatch a few, hopefully. So I'm going to pop this with the courgettes and everything. It's dripping a bit, so it's full of water. Obviously you've got to let it drip a little bit, you know, otherwise if you store it like this, it'll probably rot off inside. And then clear that lot up and not leave that net up, otherwise you get cabbage white in there, and that's another batch of problems. I've got most of the job done. All that's left to do now is pretty much plant some of the broccoli out, and then lug everything back over to the van. So I'm going to was this broccoli in. I've kind of had a bit of an idea, but I'll tell you that in a minute. So I'll take the camera and we can have a look at what I've got so far. Right, so I'll just pull this off there. I just covered these off sort of birds at them when I went to the van to get the plants. So got some blueberries there. There's just over 4.5 pounds of blueberries there. That's the Rigoletto cabbage. There's some courgettes. Quite happy with the size of them. Don't mind that size. And then come over to here. I don't know why you came because there's a bit of a breeze picking up. Here's the onions. So those are the Santero F1s, and those are the RedSpark F1s. So don't know how many there is, but I think I planted originally 288. So I've taken some home already. So if I've got like, I don't know, 230 there or something like that, 240, I don't know, but I've plenty anyway. But people will think, oh, that's a lot of onions, but it doesn't quite give you one per day, you know. And obviously I've not grown any mammoth onions this year for when I make my sauces and that, so I'll be using some of these. Probably when I sort through them, anything that looks a bit, you know, a bit funky, I'll use them up in the sauces, and anything that's sort of like good for storing, I'll store. But like I say, you know, you're not just growing for a few weeks. I'm growing these because I'm not going to get any more onions till, you know, probably July next year before some come ready to pull. So it looks like a lot, but it's the idea is grow now to get you through. So I brought some plants over, 2 varieties of broccoli, one I've never grown before. I've got 3 collie plants. I've given the other, I think it's the other 17 away. So I've got, I think there's 20 of the Iron Man and 20 Rising Sun. Never grown the Rising Sun before, ever, so I've no idea what it's like, or how long it takes to grow. Usually these are in by now, but they're quite biggish plants, so I'm hoping the stem's woody enough to stop any leather jackets, because I've not put drinking straws around, because I didn't know whether these were going to come up here or not, or if it was just a case of like, forget it and shut the plot down for the winter. So I'm going to plant 2 beds up. So there's a lot of broccoli. I don't need any more cauliflower, but I'm planting them 3 just to give me some fresh stuff that I can use. I don't have to store that. The broccoli, we'll eat that. You know, I'm not expecting this to be ready until mid to end of October, weather permitting. and problem permitting. So it seems like a lot, but I need to start thinking about growing stuff to store, because I had an x-ray last week and I had a bit of news from the doctor regarding my hands. Now, some of you might know I'm a guitarist and also a vocalist, but I'm a guitarist in a band, so I really need my hands. And obviously with gardening, and my old line of work for 20 odd years was a plumber. So anyway, it's not great. I've left hand's riddled with arthritis, and my right hand has got something to do with blood supply to it. The bone is dying, which isn't great news at all. So I'm being referred. So you know, when you mentioned the word, you know, possible surgery and stuff like that, so I'm thinking, well, while I've got the chance now, if I can grow a bit of extra food, just in case I have to have time out next year because of surgery, there's some food in, because I'm not going to be in any state to do anything if I've just been like butchered about. But long-term sort of prognosis, it's not great. It's probably going to end my guitar days. Hopefully not right, you know, in the immediate future, but I am beginning to struggle to play now, which isn't good when your own body's letting you down. And I do everything with my hands, you know, and it's just another thing I've got to deal with. But I'm not going to worry about it until I've been referred to the specialist and I've had more tests and see what my options are and what the outcome is. But it's just another kick in the head, really, you know. But you just got to take it on the chin and think, right, okay, at the moment I can still function, do what I can while I can, and worry about the path ahead when I get there. So I'm going to get these put in. And so it seems a lot, you know. I'm going to put like 40 broccoli in and 3 cauliflower. I think there's 40 broccoli. So it seems a lot, but I'll obviously add small, because I'm not going to bother about letting them get massive. And obviously it just tests this other bed for clubroot as well, you know, because I don't think they're rising to something. I don't know if any of these broccoli are clubroot resistant, I've no idea. But then it gives me an indication for next year. And then while these 2 beds are tickling over, along with that bed there, with the Rigoletto, and the courgettes can finish off. The blueberries, I've left the cage open. There's a few left, but I'll let the birds in to clear up in there, and then I can deal with that fruit cage. And then it'll be the sweet corn. I'll be coming ready in probably, well, there's a few tassels starting to brown off now, so probably the next couple of weeks. So we've got a bit of rain due, I think, which will all help plump everything up. And then, you know, there's obviously fruit cage and bed preparation towards next year, as and when I can do it. And then obviously probably in the spring, depending on how things look, deal with the fence then. And then I've kind of got, I've got to have a window to get these things done, because if I've got downtime, I'm not going to be able to do them then. I'll get these planted and we'll have a quick look, and then that'll be it for this video anyway. So I'll get on with that. It shouldn't take too long. I've no bulb plants with me. I've got a trowel. I'm not going to do them all fancy with a string. I'm just going to eyeball them. You know, because usually I could put 24 in each bed, so there'll be a gap at one end of the bed, or I might just ease them away from each end of the bed and do it that way. But we'll see. I'll just pop them in place, and then once I'm happy, I'll dig the hole with a trowel and pop them in, and then it's up to Mother Nature then. Because this net was across here, so I just took it off and hooked it on there. It's a great thing with these 4 beds being the same size. One net system fits all of them, which is great. So I'm not going to worry. So pulled onions out of that today, and it's got something planted back in it, which is ideally what you want to try and have ready all the time. Is once the bed becomes empty, get something else in. You know, I've been waiting since that cauliflower. I've been waiting for these plants to get a bit bigger, and obviously I limed that bed. That bed's been limed, and that one hasn't. So no signs of clubroot on the Rigoletto. The only thing I've had clubroot on this year was the broccoli that was in this bed, so I'm putting nothing in here. It's been limed, but obviously that bed needs building up. So there'll be these 2 beds functioning with stuff growing. I can deal with them sort of end of October, November when the rains come, and then I can't get on it then until next year. But then obviously there's jobs to do in the meantime, cover that potato bed up, stuff like that. So there's all these sort of jobs to do, but it takes a massive amount of pressure off me, because my onions are out, they'll be drying, and I can concentrate on sorting things out in the back garden, still eating salads and that, and picking lettuce. So we'll crack on and get some planting. Both the beds planted up. I've just put 3 cauliflower in the end of one bed, and then obviously the rest are the broccoli. So this one at the bottom end, that's got the 20 Iron Man. I think it's like 2 rows of 7, and then the middle one is kind of staggered, the 6 there, so there's 20 in there. So it's pretty much the same in here. I've not staggered these, so them 3 at the end there, they're the Clapton cauliflower, and then I've got 6 rows, 3 rows of 6 of the Rising Sun. Kind of just eyeballed the spacings, kind of went off a bit down here, but never mind. Nobody's judging me on that, even though I like it nice and straight, but it doesn't really matter as long as there's a bit of space. They've got about, I'd say, about 16 to 18 inches between plants, and about the same between rows. They're about 15 inch away from the side of the bed, just to allow for the height. I actually use an empty can tray, an empty cardboard can tray, which is kind of ideal spacings if I can find it. Yeah, it's down here. So that's the spacings, that far apart and that far away from the edge of the bed, that way around. So kind of handy to have that. I think it was something like that I based the original planting spaces off almost like 13 years ago. So that's all done. So they're all netted up. Well, there's a few holes in a couple of the Rising Sun leaves, which I've spotted a couple of little tiny caterpillars. I've squashed them, but give it a week, and then once they've sort of come out of the sulk mode, they're watered in, but they'll sulk a little bit, and once it's had a bit of rain and they get some new roots in, they'll start perking up, and then I can start to get rid of the lower leaves that are touching the ground, and then any plant that has a holes on, I can look at, because that's the pointer. Because I've got a couple of plants down here, I didn't bother planting these two, these leftovers. So there's a telltale sign, little holes like that. So just turn the leaf over. You know, I don't know if you can see there, a little tiny one. So just give it a nip, and that's it. Same with that. Turn it over, check them before they get too big, because otherwise they tend to go down. I've got these nice leaves here, and once that tip's gone, you're kind of knackered. And they're hard to spot because they're a nice lush green caterpillar, and they tend to just lay, you know, in the plant stem, and they're hard to spot. So it's easy to have a bit of look at. I mean, I had a quick look through, but obviously they were the most holes in. I thought I won't put them in. Obviously they will go from plant to plant. So there was a few leather jackets where I dug the holes. So hopefully they'll just leave the plants alone. But if they shear them off, then it's my own fault for not putting the straws on. But like I say, because of certain reasons with wrists and stuff, if I've got a surplus of broccoli, I don't mind, because it just takes a bit of pressure off in case I've got to have anything done next year, whether it's even if it's just like injections. I don't want to be battering my wrist. I've just had needles poked in my wrist. So I say I'm not going to bog my head down with that. I'm just going to worry about it when I get there. I just do like I've been dealing with it, just taking painkillers and wearing splints when I can. And obviously there's good days and bad days. But it's been going on for a while, and it's taken a bit of getting some answers. So I ended up, seeing a physiotherapist who decided he wanted to have a proper look. And it's surprising what they found when they have a proper look. Why they don't have a proper look in the first place could have prevented any further damage, but that's the so-called health system in the UK. It's not the best, but if you wave a load of money at them, it's like, come on sir, and you come, we'll sort you out straight away. It's wrong really, but that's the way it is. So take care, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next video. See you now, bye bye.